You're a lovely girl, aren't you?
Yeah.
Happy little soul. So, yeah, tell me about your super speedy labour and
Yes,
birth.
it was very super speedy. So my water broke at 6:30, and in that classic way that women do, I thought, oh God, I've wet myself. But the night before, I had read, if your waters break, put a pad in your knickers and put a towel underneath you, and then go back to sleep. So I did, and that will indicate whether they're carrying on breaking. And when I woke up again 2 hours later, it was definitely my waters that were breaking. Well, I kept calling them cramps because they were so fine. You know, they were absolutely fine, and I was doing lots of breathing. And in the book it says, although they are manageable, start practicing your breathing straight away. So I was doing that, and then we were walking around. I spent all day walking around, and I was quite physical when I wasn't sleeping, because we were clearing out the room that she was then going to be born in. So I still, even at 10:30, I didn't think I was having a baby that night. And anyway, the surges really slowed down because I was distracted, I think. And so I said to Henry, look, I'm not going to carry on packing my t-shirts and everything. I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to have a nice early night and just concentrate. And anyway, I slept from 10:30 until midnight, with the surges sort of waking me up, but I was going back to sleep. Not a problem. And I think they were coming maybe once every half an hour, maybe once every 15 minutes. So it was, at no point did I have regular surges at all. They were just, like I say, like 9:30, they were sort of every 4 to 5 minutes. Maybe even less at that point. And then I got a bit distracted, and then they slowed down, and then they were like once every 15 minutes. And from about midnight, they started waking me up, and so I was lying there and I was breathing through it, and Henry was asleep, breathing through it, and I still kept thinking, oh, this is quite manageable, this is alright. And at 1:30, then they kept me awake, and again I was breathing through it, but at this point I was now like on my hands and knees for some of them, because I was, just trying to manage
just
them.
Felt right.
It felt right, and just managing them as well as possible. Still at this point it was all absolutely fine. Henry was still asleep, and then at 2:00 I had this real surge, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to try and time them now. So I had one, and then I had one about 15 minutes later, and then I had quite a big one, and that was 2 minutes later. And then they just came every 2 minutes after that.
So suddenly picked up.
And
really
it just
quickly.
suddenly, there was no pattern at all. And at 2:00 I walked in. I had a big surge. I thought, okay, I'm going to wake Henry up now. Walked into to where he was sleeping, because he was sleeping separately, because we'd made that decision that it would be too disruptive. And I had another surge as I walked in, and I said, Henry, I think I need to get in the pool now. And he, poor boy, he was like, oh, right, he was fast asleep.
Yeah, so it's suddenly woken up to that.
Yeah, and so I woke him up at 2:00, and she was born at 2:45. And so within that 45-minute period, he had got up, phoned the midwife. I hadn't done it before, because I just didn't think she was going to come then. The first thing they did was tell him off. Honestly, I couldn't believe
That
it.
doesn't necessarily help.
It was so unhelpful. They said, why didn't you phone us before? And he was like, my wife didn't tell me to phone you before.
I was asleep.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, he was so amazing, honestly, and so, I think, utterly empowered by the hypnobirthing, and really, although he has said to me subsequently he was panicked, he was
You didn't see
totally
that,
calm
yeah.
on the outside. To me, he looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. It was a bit unfortunate that I gave him 45 minutes warning. And at that time, you had to get a midwife there and get the pool warmed up and get me in it. And
well, you managed to get 2 out of 3, didn't you?
yeah,
The pool warmed up, got you in it. You didn't
yes,
get the midwife there.
he did, yeah. And so I said I really need to get in the pool. Even at that point, I thought, right, I've got another 6 hours in front of me, but you know, I'm going to get in the pool now because it feels right. And as I got in, it was like a trigger. And as I got in, I thought, oh, this is going to be brilliant. I can relax for a few hours. But as I got in, it was like a trigger, you know, and I had this huge animal surge. I mean, it wasn't me, it was absolutely my body
Completely
doing
primal.
it. Completely primal. And it didn't last, you know, it was fine, it was absolutely fine. I did have a shout, but it was, you know, that
primal roar.
shout, yeah, and it was like a warrior, you know, just like, "Argh!" And then I had this next surge, and Jackie, I swear to God, even at this next surge, I didn't think she was coming. Halfway through the surge, her head came out, and I was like, what? I mean, this surge was, it was really powerful, it was really strong, but, you know, I just thought, okay, this is all right, this is fine, I'm going to have to do this for a few hours now, because that's what you are told,
That's what you do.
is what will happen, and that's going to be fine. And so I had this second surge, and I was thinking, in my head I was thinking, okay, this is manageable, this is okay. And halfway through it, her head came out. And I will never forget that feeling. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And so then I was like, Henry, her head's come out. We ran downstairs. Yeah, so we held her together, and that was lovely because she was absolutely wide awake. I mean, she was, in hindsight, I wish we'd videoed it. And we did talk about it that day, but we both thought, you know, just in case. Anyway, she was wide awake, eyes open, perfect little conical head, you know, covered in the vernix. I mean, absolutely thick, because she was 3 weeks early.
Yes,
so she was absolutely thick with it. And then she started opening her mouth, and we thought, okay, well, we'll take her out of the water at that point, because she was really like this. And then she started mouthing like that. Lifted her up, and that was funny as well, because that was a little bit like a switch. So she'd gone from being in me to being in the lovely water, and we took her out of the water, and she just went like that. So she'd been completely active in the water, and then kind of like went floppy, and so we gave her a rub, and you know, I put her on my stomach when I could, and let her find, you know, my nipple, which she did. Yeah, which she did, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And then we did that on the next feed as well, which was a long time after she'd been born, about an hour and a half after she'd been born. And then I sat with her there for about another 20 minutes, and unfortunately, if you don't get a midwife there, they automatically call paramedics. So then they turned up, and I felt really bad about that actually, because, you know, I just thought, they're just going to hang around.